Let me tell you something most men don't want to hear, but absolutely need to. Women don't miss men who chase them. They miss the men who don't. Sounds unfair, right? But here's the raw truth. When a woman isn't interested, the more you try to push, convince, or prove your worth, the less she feels anything for you. That doesn't make her cruel or cold. It's just how attraction works. A woman can't miss you if you never give her the space to notice your absence. And trust me, when you stop showing up where she expects you, when you pull your energy back in the right way, suddenly, you're on her mind more than you realize. See, women are emotional creatures. We notice subtle shifts. When a man who was always eager suddenly steps back, we can't help but wonder, wait, why isn't he reaching out? Who's got his attention now? That curiosity alone is often the very thing that flips the dynamic. And here's where it gets juicy. You don't have to be the man begging for her attention to make her think about you. You don't even need her to like you at first. What you need is to create contrast. If she feels nothing when you're present, she might feel everything when you're gone, if you know how to play it right. So, in this video, I'm going to give you the truth from a woman's perspective. The ways you can make a woman miss you, even if right now she isn't interested at all. Some of these might surprise you, some might feel uncomfortable, but every single one is real and comes straight from how women think and behave. 1. Stop feeding her ego. Silence speaks louder. Here's the first thing you need to understand about women. Attention is our currency. It's what we trade in, even more than money or gifts. When you give a woman constant validation, compliments, or availability, especially when she's not interested, you're not actually moving closer to her. You're just feeding her ego. And once her ego is satisfied, she doesn't need you. She needs the attention, not the man giving it. Think about it. If every time she posts a selfie, you're the first to like it or drop a fire emoji, she knows you're there. If she leaves your messages on seen and you still double text, she knows you're hooked. And once she knows she's got you wrapped around her finger, you become predictable. Predictability kills attraction. There's no curiosity, no chase, no spark. You've turned yourself into background noise. Now, here's where silence comes in. When you stop responding immediately, when you don't chase after being ignored, when you resist the urge to check in just to remind her you exist, suddenly, there's a gap. That gap makes her wonder, wait, where is he? Did I lose his attention? Who's he talking to now? That silence is not emptiness, it's pressure. And that pressure creates curiosity. Most men think if they pull back, she'll forget about them. Wrong. A woman forgets about the guy who keeps trying too hard. But she remembers the one who suddenly stopped showing up. Why? Because silence feels like rejection, and rejection to a woman, especially from a man she thought she could control, triggers her ego. She wants to prove to herself that she still has you, and in that process, she starts thinking about you more. That's how missing begins. Here's the mistake most men make. They confuse silence with ghosting. Silence isn't about bitterness or punishment. It's about restraint. Ghosting says, I'm angry, so I'm cutting you off. Silence says, I'm good either way. That's attractive. Because instead of looking like a hurt boy, you look like a man with options, with standards, with self-respect. So the next time you feel the urge to break no contact, to check her stories, to remind her you're still around, don't. Sit in the silence. Because in that silence, she will start to notice your absence. And trust me, that absence will echo louder in her mind than any sweet text you could ever send. 2. The power of scarcity. Be where she doesn't expect you. Here's the brutal truth. People don't value what's always available. That's not just women. It's human psychology. The things we see every day, the things we know we can always get, lose their shine over time. That's why the same woman who ignores your texts can obsess over a guy who barely acknowledges her. It's not because he's better, it's because he's scarce. And scarcity creates value. When you're constantly there, liking her posts, watching every story, replying within seconds, you're signaling that your time and attention are cheap. But when you step back, when your presence isn't guaranteed, suddenly your value rises. She starts thinking, why isn't he reacting anymore? What's he busy with? Who's taking his attention now? That uncertainty pulls her in. Think of it like this. Imagine your favorite restaurant. If it's always empty and you can walk in anytime, you don't feel urgency to go. But if it's booked out weeks in advance and you can barely get a table, suddenly the exact same meal feels exclusive and worth more. It's not the food that changed, it's the perception of scarcity. Women operate the same way with men's attention. Scarcity works best when it's natural, not forced. Don't post mysterious quotes about focusing on yourself or try too hard to prove you're busy. That's transparent. Instead, actually be busy. Fill your life with things that matter. The gym, your work, your hobbies, your friends, your purpose. When your time is naturally scarce, women feel it. They notice when you're not around, and they respect it more than any line you could feed them. Here's where most guys mess it up. They think scarcity means ignoring her completely. That's not it. Scarcity is about selective presence. Be where she doesn't expect you. Instead of blowing up her phone, let her see you enjoying yourself with friends. Instead of always being the first to comment, skip a few posts and then drop one thoughtful reply later. Instead of chasing her plans, invite her into yours on your timeline. That shift makes her lean in because now you're not predictable. Women crave novelty and challenge. A man who's scarce gives both. He makes her wonder, am I losing him? Who has his attention? Does he even think about me? Those questions are powerful because they flip the dynamic. Instead of you being the one chasing her, she starts chasing the validation she once took for granted. So here's the bottom line. Stop making yourself common. Your attention, your time, your presence, that's the real prize. Treat it that way. The man every woman remembers isn't the one who gave her endless compliments and waited at her feet. It's the one who made her feel lucky to even have a piece of him. That's the power of scarcity. 3. The shift in energy. When she realizes you're not obsessed anymore. Here's what most men don't realize. Women are hypersensitive to shifts in energy. She can feel when your attention changes, even if you haven't said a word. If you were once glued to her every move, and then suddenly you're not chasing, not checking in, not orbiting around her, she notices. And that change alone can trigger something powerful inside her. At first, she might not take it seriously. She'll think, he's probably just busy. He'll come back. But the longer it goes on, the more it unsettles her. See, a woman gets used to your pattern. If you've been giving her all the validation, all the reassurance, all the attention, that becomes her normal. She doesn't question it. She just expects it. But when the pattern breaks, it shakes her comfort zone. That's when she starts wondering, wait, did I lose my hold on him? Is he over me? Did another woman take my place? This shift in energy is more powerful than words because it's silent. You're not telling her you're done. You're showing it through your behavior. You're not angry. You're not bitter. You're not begging. You're simply not giving her what you used to. That silence makes her imagination do the heavy lifting, and believe me, her imagination will torture her far more than anything you could ever say. Now here's where it gets interesting. The same woman who ignored your texts or acted distant before will suddenly start trying to re-engage. She might test you with a casual message, a like on your story, or some indirect way of checking if she still matters. That's not random. It's her way of feeling out if she still has influence over you. And the moment she senses she doesn't, that's when the fear of loss kicks in. This is why emotional control is everything. If you slip and run back the second she throws you a breadcrumb, you reset the old dynamic. She's in control again, and you're back to chasing. But if you hold your ground, stay calm, and keep your focus elsewhere, she feels the shift even more intensely. That's when curiosity turns into anxiety, and anxiety turns into attraction. Think about it. Women are used to men being predictable. They're used to men doing anything for a scrap of attention. When you don't play that game, when your energy is no longer tied to her approval, you stand out. You become the guy she can't quite figure out. And that's exactly the type of man who stays on her mind. Bottom line. Don't underestimate the silent power of withdrawing your obsession. The absence of energy speaks louder than words. She'll feel it, and the moment she does, the balance shifts. That's when she starts realizing she needs to do the chasing, because you're no longer giving her the comfort of knowing she has you. 4. Curiosity turns into obsession. Why mystery hooks a woman's mind? Here's something you need to understand about women. Curiosity is one of the most powerful emotional triggers you can activate. When she can't fully read you, when she doesn't know exactly where she stands, her mind starts working overtime. And that constant thinking about you, that's the root of obsession. Most men make the mistake of being too transparent. They over-explain, over-share, and over-validate. While that feels safe to them, it kills mystery. And without mystery, there's no tension, no intrigue, no reason for her to wonder. A woman who has nothing to figure out eventually loses interest. But when you pull back, when you're not as available, when your attention feels scarce, she starts asking herself questions she didn't before. Why isn't he all over me anymore? Who's he talking to? Did he move on? Is there another woman? That curiosity is not comfortable for her. It's unsettling. But that's exactly why it's powerful. It hooks her mind into thinking about you more than she'd like to admit. And the more she thinks about you, the harder it becomes for her to detach. That's how women get pulled back into attraction, not through what you give, but through what you withhold. Now here's the key. Mystery doesn't mean playing games or being manipulative. It means living your life in a way that isn't centered around her. When she sees that your time is valuable, that your attention is selective, that you have other priorities besides chasing her, she realizes she doesn't fully own you. That's when the questions multiply in her head. And once those questions start, she can't help but seek answers. This is why men who are grounded, calm, and unbothered are so magnetic. They don't give away everything up front. They're not desperate to explain themselves or prove their worth. Instead, they let their silence and their actions do the talking. And because she can't fully predict what they'll do next, she stays locked in. Think about it. A woman's biggest fear isn't rejection. It's irrelevance. The moment she feels like she doesn't matter to you, her mind scrambles for a way to get that significance back. She'll replay past interactions, stalk your social media, and test you with subtle little moves, all because her curiosity turned into obsession. This is where many men slip up. They crack under the pressure of her tests, they rush back in at the first sign of attention, and they kill the mystery by showing they were just waiting for her to return. The men who win are the ones who stay consistent. They let her curiosity build. They let her imagination run wild, and they don't rush to reassure her. Bottom line, when you stop being predictable and start being mysterious, you shift her mind from comfort to curiosity. And curiosity, once it takes root, can grow into full-blown obsession. That's when she starts chasing. Not because you forced her, but because her own mind won't let her walk away. 5. The man who knows when to walk away. One of the most unforgettable things a man can do is know when to walk away. It sounds simple, but most men don't realize how powerful this is. Women remember the man who didn't chase endlessly, who didn't beg, and who didn't cling when the energy shifted. Instead, he recognized when his value wasn't being appreciated and calmly removed himself. That decision leaves a lasting impact. Think about it. Most men, when faced with rejection, disrespect, or indifference, react emotionally. They try harder, they overinvest, or they lose control. But the man who doesn't, the man who simply says, "I deserve better than this," and moves on without bitterness or drama, that's the man who burns himself into a woman's memory. Why? Because walking away with dignity flips the dynamic. Women are used to men fighting for their attention. They're not used to men being selective enough to say, "You're not living up to my standards, so I'm done." That sends a shockwave through her psychology. It plants the thought, if he can walk away from me so easily, he must have options. He must know his worth. And maybe I wasn't as important to him as I thought. This creates a powerful emotional imprint. A woman may move on, but she'll always compare future men to the one who had the courage to walk away. He becomes the what if in her mind. Even if she doesn't admit it, she'll replay the moment he left, wondering if she made a mistake. Here's the key. Walking away isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about self-respect. It's about knowing your boundaries and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. When a man carries himself this way, he becomes unforgettable because he shows her something rare, strength combined with emotional discipline. Women don't remember the man who begged. They don't remember the one who tolerated disrespect. But they never forget the man who walked away with quiet confidence. That's the man who leaves her wondering for years, what would have happened if I had valued him differently? 6. The man who lives by his standards. Another type of man women never forget is the one who lives by his standards and refuses to compromise them just to please her. This is the man who knows what he wants, how he wants to live, and what he will or will not tolerate. And the moment a woman realizes she cannot bend him away from his standards, she sees him as rare, powerful, and unforgettable. Most men fall into the trap of changing themselves for a woman's approval. They'll adjust their opinions, lower their boundaries, or bend their priorities just to keep her happy. But ironically, this doesn't make her value him more. It makes her respect him less. Why? Because women test men constantly, not always consciously, but to see if his words and actions align. And when a man fails these tests by abandoning his standards, she forgets him quickly. But the man who stands firm, he commands respect. If he says he doesn't tolerate disrespect, he means it. If he values his time, he won't let it be wasted. If he has a mission, no distraction can pull him off course. That consistency creates emotional security for a woman, even if she doesn't always like his decisions in the moment. She knows exactly who he is, and she knows he won't change for anyone. That's what makes him unforgettable. He becomes the benchmark of authenticity. Even years later, she'll remember him as the man who wouldn't fold. She might have disagreed with him. She might even have argued with him, but she will never forget that he was unshakable. Here's the truth. Standards aren't about being rigid or controlling. They're about clarity. A man with standards communicates through his actions that his life has direction, and his respect isn't free. It must be earned. Women may try to push against those standards, but deep down, they admire them. Because while they may test you, they only remember the men who pass the test. A man with standards doesn't just capture a woman's attention in the moment. He stays in her memory for life. 7. She respects the man who respects himself. One of the most overlooked truths in dating is this: the respect a woman gives you will never exceed the respect you show yourself. You can talk about standards, boundaries, and expectations all day long, but if your actions don't reflect them, she won't take you seriously. Women are highly intuitive. They watch how you treat yourself more than they listen to what you say. A woman may test you with small things, showing up late, ignoring your messages, or being inconsistent. If you tolerate it without addressing it, she knows you don't respect your own time or energy. And when you don't respect yourself, she won't respect you either. On the other hand, if you calmly enforce your boundaries, not with anger, not with begging, but with certainty, she feels your strength. That's what makes her view you differently. Respect isn't something you demand from a woman with words. It's something you command through your presence and behavior. When you keep your standards high and follow through consistently, you create an invisible line she cannot cross. That line tells her exactly how to treat you, and if she values you, she'll rise to meet it. The men women remember and admire are not the ones who bent over backwards to please them. They're the ones who stood firm in who they were. Respect builds attraction because it communicates value. When she sees you won't compromise your dignity for her approval, she starts to view you as a man she can trust, admire, and even surrender to. If there's one truth to hold on to, it's this. The moment you start respecting yourself above all else, every interaction with women changes. You'll stop chasing, stop settling, and start attracting women who respect you the way you deserve. At the core of everything we've covered is one simple truth. Women never forget a man who leaves an impression of strength, self-respect, and emotional impact. Whether it's the way you carry yourself, how you protect your time, the passion you show for your purpose, or the way you make her feel seen without losing yourself. These are the things that stay with her long after the conversations fade. Women are emotional creatures, and memory for us is tied to emotion. We don't remember every word you said, but we never forget how you made us feel. The men who stand out in a woman's life aren't the ones who try too hard, give away their power, or put her on a pedestal. They're the ones who remain grounded in who they are, who walk away when they need to, who don't crumble under pressure, and who live by their standards no matter what. That's why respect, boundaries, and self-worth are at the heart of attraction. If you want to be the man she thinks about years later, the man she compares others to, and the man she regrets losing, then stop trying to win her approval and start embodying the kind of man who doesn't need it. Because here's the truth. A woman may forget the man who begged for her time, but she will never forget the one who made her earn his.